I used to wake up every morning scared. Didn't even know that I was actually feeling scared. I thought that it was just a state of like that that's what I was living in. I didn't question anything about it except that all I could see was this tunnel vision and wondering what's the next thing that I should do except just get in my day and just accept it. I did year over year, day after day, second after second, waking up in the morning and being in this fear. I didn't even know why I was in the fear. Like there wasn't a conversation I had with myself and said, oh, this is the main reason why I'm in fear. It would just be a new story every day. And it could be me being afraid of the day to me wondering, like what's my next step I'm going to do because maybe I was, working for somebody or I was in a project and I never questioned it. Not until I got into this industry, and I've been in this industry, well, 15 plus years, a little bit over, probably over 15 years. And this is what we want to talk about today. Because the more that we understand this fear and running away from it, it actually is the whole umbrella of what I want to talk about is living in confusion and why we need that. And what does confusion mean? Why would we want to live in confusion? And why do we run away from it if we really want to live in it? But it's also connected with tenacity. I have some plaques over here that I created based on if you want it to get to a certain dollar point in your business, some of the breakthroughs that you had to have. We're on the second pillar, we're on the second plaque, which is that you're really wanting to increase your vitality, increase your lifestyle, increase your business, but you're doing it in a way where you're looking at like a bigger umbrella of what do I want to do with all my emotions and how can I redirect those emotions to something that's very healthy? So we're talking about confusion today. My name is Rhonda Liebig. This is the Rhonda Lou Moxy conversation that we have every Monday. And sometimes it's hard to really get into it after the weekend, being so focused in on what I am doing. I spent a lot of time out in my yard this weekend, pulling weeds. My fingers are hurting. I have some slivers and all these different things, but the yard is looking great and I feel great being out there. But then the transition, to get into Monday, I think the show is perfect for being here on Monday because then it helps us kind of get shook up a bit. Think about the things that are really important to us. Today, when I started, I was looking at a picture of my daughter, Kirsten, when she was younger, and Oliver when he was younger. Oliver, our dog. Oliver was laying right here, and I looked over at him with his white face, and I looked over at the picture with my daughter, Kirsten, and Kiki was very young, Oliver, very young, and I was just like, this time moves so fast. So if we give ourselves enough time to be motivated, it'll do something very powerful for us. We can decide what we really want to do with our life and how we can create more income. I was talking to my hubby this morning and I was talking about, like there were these ebbs and flows and the stuff I was doing when I was really believing in myself. I was building and creating bigger things. And then the waking up early in the morning and being afraid and really believing that that was my life. That was who I was, that I didn't deserve any more than just that fear. Then that would crumble everything that I was building and it would go expand, contract, expand, contract. Anybody else here ever feel that way? I'm tired of thinking in a fearful way. And so if I get tired of that, that means I get to allow myself to actually be in it instead of shaming myself. This morning, I was thinking of some shameful thoughts about things like, I wish I would have done this better. I wish I would have done that better. All that confusion and the fear and stuff coming on. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock this morning, all of a sudden, I just was like, I'm shaming myself. I need to stop doing that. And instantly, my heart was just exploding, like I could feel it expanding. Like, yeah, that's what you want to start doing, is understanding that that confusion and fear is actually bringing in new energy. It's the shaking up that you are becoming aware of more things. But instead of staying in that confused state of, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Why did I do it that way? That you recognize it and you go, okay, thank you. And that is the second step into resilience, is when you flip it. That moment when you flip it. Because then this is where the brave you comes in, is releasing your story that feels so safe and easy, even though you're scared and uncomfortable, but you're used to it. So now you're asking for something new. And sometimes your energy towards something new, because it's going to be so good and so different, your energy sometimes goes, "Rah, rah, rah." Like all of a sudden you have no motivation to really get into being motivated and get into that next level. And so what if you call yourself out and you say, okay, I was just shaming and blaming myself and in full confusion. Now, where do I want to take that? And then all of a sudden your body starts becoming more and more free. Like you might not even recognize it, but you're just starting to feel something that just feels like flowing. Then the next layer that comes in is that you start believing in yourself. And seconds before, you were shaming and blaming yourself, but that was your state of mind. And if you would have stayed right in that, where would that have gone? It would have gone even more deep and more stories and reasons why you need to be shaming yourself. And it's like, it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't build something to help you move forward. In the Rhonda Lou Moxy show, what I try and do is the name in itself. I mean, to be Moxy, to be sitting in a resilient space where you're like, okay, I've done those things before, but this is the new me, the new identity, the new person that is just mapping things out, doing what feels right, instead of shaming and blaming and trying to pull yourself out of the rocks and the pebbles and the boulders. You're like, all right, I got this. And all of a sudden your creativity comes in. So I started noticing that I started saying something bigger in life when I started wrecking the second step into tenacity, which there's 4 steps. Let me go back. Let me share what those steps are. Sexy vibe. That was our last show. You may want to ask where that is if you haven't seen it yet. Confusion, which is today. Roar, which is all about the insides, really believing in yourself so you can rebalance your organs and revitalize. Roar. The 4th step is crazy. Why do you want to have crazy? Well, that's the 4th step until you get into resilient. That's the 4 steps until you get into resilient. So let's see where this goes. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about this, because have you ever thought about being angry or fear or confused, that could actually be something positive? If we don't question it, it'll take you in a spot that just, it won't serve anybody. It won't help you move forward in what the goals and that you want. Have you ever created a goal and then the next day you were so empowered the night before, and you wake up and you go, I forgot I even had that goal. What was so exciting about that? Or you think about it, you go, oh, right, whatever. And you just literally give up on it. Well, what happened? It's because of that whole process. But the second part is you forgot to call yourself out and say, there is no shaming and blaming around here. You can be confused. You can be in fear. It's part of the brain process. But as soon as you let go, answers start happening. This is where I started building this whole thing that I call hashtag speaker locking arms. And I want to share this story with you because I want you to see what story you have that, or that you're building, that you're like, I keep revving up and it starts feeling really good. And then all of a sudden, I forget that I have like this bigger picture, bigger scope of what I want to do, or you won't step into it because there's fear to that. So I started thinking about this hashtag speaker locking arms and I started using it. I started talking and over so I could kind of get it in my DNA that I was talking about this. So I believe that we are here to open our voice, be able to support others, and this will help us feel really good that we'll stop shaming and blaming ourselves, or we'll recognize it so that we can go out there in the world and stop the shaming and blaming, so we can lock arms. And you may have your own vision of what you want to go around the globe, because that's my global vision. What's yours? And I want to lock arms with my vision and you support that. But also, I want to know what your vision is. So if you have anything, make sure you add to the comments what's important to you. So I started talking about this stuff, and it was easy because it was just a one layer. Hashtag speaker locking arms. Let's stop the shaming and blaming. And that's as far as it went. And in my videos, I would talk about it a little bit here and there. But as I started stepping in my tenacious pillar, I recognized that there were times I really wasn't stepping into it. So how can I keep this movement going when I'm kind of in and out and in and then out again? So I was noticing that I was starting to call myself out anytime I felt confused or I felt in fear or I felt like I was just shutting myself down in my voice. And I started hearing more things. It's like, here, wait, I need to be doing events. I want to be bringing people together that want to talk about this human experience. And I call it a humanitarian project because I wanted to bring people together where we're talking about how would this change the perspective of what it is to live here on earth, and how can we make it easier, more loving, where people appreciate it more. So I love talking about this stuff because it feels so divine to think that it's not just my vision, but if we keep moving forward in this idea that we're not alone, whatever I want, you can partner with, or you can add in what you want, and we'll support each other back and forth. And we need to work together. There's no way that we can do this all alone. So then from there, and at this point, I'm consistently clearing my space, listening to myself. So then I can go in deeper. And now I have a board of advisors that are in hashtag speaker locking arms, the humanitarian project to stop the shaming and blaming. So you see how this gets bigger and bigger, and each person on the board, they get to share a resource. And those resources will help this vision grow even more. But it'll help their vision grow even more. We're learning to partner, which is the hashtag speaker locking arms. I'm learning to be in truth with what all that means. Partnering with people, supporting them by me giving, some resource to my board members, and then them, giving back, and we're all trying to help each other, and they're all levitating together, because the more you have together, the more power you have. And I started recognizing that this became more easy for me to talk about when I catch myself not speaking my truth, or I was allowing myself just to, just kind of go in my pit of loneliness. And I said, no more of that. And not that all that stops, because you have to think about this. The human experience here is that we're going to have challenges. But how do you pivot so that everything starts feeling and flow and in purpose, so you don't get stuck in the blaming part of like, this is not what life's supposed to be. It's supposed to be easier. This is just so hard. I'm tired of this. And the story that can go along with that. So I want to bring you in to thinking about your confusion. Where have you gotten stuck before in your past? And maybe even this morning. And where do you want to move to clear that? Recognize it, learn some stuff, shake it up, look at it at different angles of that confusion, and get into moving forward. Think about, what could I do in my life if I felt resilient, like more consistently than once a year, or once a month, or once a day, but resilient, building up. Listen to your confusion, because it's just you asking questions. And if you start answering them instead of running away from them, think about what would change in your life. Where do you want to go with this? What do you want? What's your biggest purpose? I'd love to hear. This is the Rhonda Lou Moxy Show. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm going to be here next Monday, and we're going to be talking about roar. And roars rebalance organs and revitalize. We're going to talk about that because as we're doing this work, our insides start calming down. And I'll bring my 25 plus years in the healthy industry. As you start to become more calm as a person, the more your hormone system relaxes and does exactly what it needs to. The circulation starts happening. Oh, it's just incredible. I love you so much. Think about where you want this to go for you and how this can create a bigger, bolder Moxie lifestyle week this week for you. And I appreciate you so much. Earlier, I talked about my board and the board of advisors. In this, I'm going to give you a link so that you can opt in to keep track of what we're doing as a board that's talking about the space of, what if we keep opening our voice and we keep empowering each other? Where can this take us? So if you want to be part of that crusade and learn more, I'll make sure I get a link for you. And I think that's it right now. I love you so much. You have a wonderful day. Namaste.